Gavir Dia. She's giving a P9 titled Pay It Forward. She studies in Class 9 DPS and her hobbies include of painting. Her evaluator is Gavalier John. I asked Gavalier John to read out the speech objectives.
Very good evening to you all. Today I will be evaluating Gavalier Dia's P9. Gavalier Dia, your project objectives are to persuade listeners to adopt your viewpoint or ideas to make some action, appeal to audience interest, use logic and emotion to support your position, avoid using no. All the best.
And now for Gavalier Dia to give her P9.
Last week, an uncle of mine came to see my dad. And I could not help but overhear their conversation. Please, I swear I wasn't eavesdropping. At least, that's what I think. So, according to what I understood, apparently this uncle of mine, who was financially not too well off, had borrowed a small sum of money from my dad. And now that all his debts and problems were settled, he had come back to my dad to return the loan. And my dad, he was reluctant to accept it because he knew that my uncle was suffering and he was not in a stable condition for now. But my uncle was insistent on returning the money. And then the argument broke out. And it seemed like it went on for ages and ages. And finally, my father gave a solution to break the stalemate. He said, okay then, pay it forward. Respected Toastmasters, Gavaliers, and everybody present here, a very good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
You know how they say that charity begins at home? It is one of the oldest sayings. In fact, Anne Frank noted in her diary that no one has ever become poor by giving, which is true. But there are thousands and thousands of quotes on charity that it would be too cliche to state them here right now. But my point here is not about giving, but rather giving it back. Giving is good, yes. And by giving, I refer to any means of charity. It may be financial, physical, physiological support, or even the occasional shoulder that you lend to your friends to cry on. It can be any of that. And all of these acts give you a halo or a godly touch. But have you ever thought about what charity does to the person who receives the money? Let's think about that. Now, no person in this world seeks charity readily or voluntarily or enthusiastically. In fact, he is often forced into it by his life circumstances, or what others would call his fate. He has two options. One, either accept the charity from the person, however humiliated or ashamed he might feel, because the only other option he has is ruin and death staring back at him. So then obviously he seeks help, and you give him that help. And as I said, it can be any kind of help. And when you give him that help, it helps him tide over his problems and become stable again. Bounce back to life. And all is well that ends well. Now, the moral dilemma starts. Because believe me, the top priority of any person with human dignity would be to return the loan back to the person. And that is appropriate. But nobody is going to benefit by this. Because think about it. You give money to a person, you get back the money, and that's it. The loop is closed. And life goes on. So what can you do? You pay it forward. Now, I didn't understand this term in the beginning, and my friend explained the concept to me. So here's the example. Suppose I borrow a small sum of money from my friend. And now, suppose let's say I'm stable. But now, he doesn't need the money, I don't need the money. So what can we do? Instead of returning the money back to him, what I can do is give it to another person who is more needy and who's asking for help from me. And that connection is created. Now the new recipient, he pays my money to another person, and it goes on and on. Now, life, is a vicious cycle with its ups and its downs. In fact, good times, they come and they go. So do bad times. You may be a rich person today, but tomorrow you may be a beggar on the streets. So think about it. Isn't it much better and more ideal to help a needier person than give the money back to a person who doesn't even need it? By this, we keep the chain of goodness alive and growing. It encompasses more and more people, and it enhances many more lives. And so friends, that's why I'm telling you, why don't we pay it forward? Instead of helping a person that never even needs it, give it to someone who actually needs it. That is my entire point. So friends, let's make charity a culture. Let's make it a movement which gains momentum every second and which spreads over humankind. Let us pay it forward. Over to you.